Hi everyone. We're going to solve natural log equations. Basically, this is a review. You should already know basic things like ln of e equals 1 because e to the first power is e. You should also know the domain restrictions on logs and natural logs. The quantity here has to be greater than 0 and what e equals. It's a constant. So I find students have a hard time with this because of the e part. Just remember that it's a constant. Don't consider it a variable. So we're going to do 7 problems. The first thing we're going to do is condense or write this natural log on the left side as a single logarithm equals 2. Now, to solve this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this 2 by 1. I'm not changing it. What's 2 times 1? Just 2. But 1 in natural log land is ln of e. So what I'm going to do, instead of 1, I'm going to call this ln of e. Okay? Now I'm going to use my power property for logs and natural logs. Basically, before I do that, I already know that this part here cancels, so we just get x squared equals ln of e, and I can move this 2 up there. So e squared. And we're solving for x. Also, my domain here, if we look at this, even if it's negative, when I square it, it's going to be positive. So we can have any real numbers here. Whatever we get, it's going to be valid. So in this case, we're back to here, and we can cross out the ln's. And remember, ln is just 1 over e, which is approximately 0.37. Approximately. Okay? Now I have to solve for x. So I take the square root of both sides. Don't forget to put the plus and minus. So when you square root both sides, you have to do plus and minus. And when I square root e squared, that's just e. So my answer is x equals plus or minus e. Both of these work. That's an e. Because when you plug in e in here, you square it out. You square out the negative and it turns positive. All right, so let's move on to some more. You can do the same thing. This is very similar. So I'm going to write this out, condense the left side, and multiply my right side by 1, which is ln of e. I'm going to simplify. So this is just going to be x squared. And I'm going to use my power property and get ln of e squared. I can cancel my 0.37, which is what that is. They're both the same. And I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, so this just leaves x, and we get plus or minus e. It's very similar to the other problem. And if you want, you can write your answer as plus or minus e like this, which is essentially plus or minus 2.718. Okay? Okay, now we're running into little different problems. I'm going to condense my left side, write this as a single log. I'll just multiply these 2 pieces, and I'm multiplying my 4 by 1, which is ln of e. All right, so let me copy it down again and use my power property. So this is ln of e to the 4th. I can cancel my ln's, and then I solve for x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 25. Again, my domain's going to be all real numbers, because even if you plug in a negative in here, so if I plug in negative 5 squared, it still turns out to be positive. So now we're going to square root both sides. Don't forget your plus and minus. So x equals plus or minus e squared over 5. This is like saying plus or minus square root of e to the fourth over square root of 25, which gives you this answer. Okay? The next one's a little different. I'm going to condense the left side. At the same time, I'm going to multiply my 5. There's a formula for this. I just find it easier. You don't have to remember the formula if you just know that ln of e equals 1. So we're not changing anything. I'm going to go ahead and move my 5, put it here, using my power property, and cross those out. So basically I have to solve for x. Now this is 8 over x minus 5 equals e to the 5th. So I'm going to cross multiply, then solve for x. Distribute here. And then solve for x. So I want to isolate x. I'm going to move him over. So I'm going to get 8 plus 5 e to the 5th equals e to the 5th times x. So I'm going to divide both sides by e to the 5th, my constant. And that will cancel, so I get x equals this. Now, we have to check my domain here. This quantity in this bit can't be 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0, and you can't have an ln of 5. So x has to be greater than 5. Instead of using a calculator, what I'm going to do is just kind of simplify this, divide both, rewrite it like this. Because this would, okay, let me just write it out. This would cancel. So you know we're already adding 5 to it, and this part here is positive. So you know this whole answer works. So the answer is x equals 8 plus 5 e to the 5th over e to the 5th. So you don't really have to use a calculator. You can just kind of observe that this is 5, and this is greater than this 8 over e to the 5th is positive. Okay, next, the same thing. We're going to go a little faster. First of all, my domain is all real numbers, so I don't really have to check my solutions here, because even if I have negative, it will square the negative out. So I'm going to condense, make a single logarithm. This case, we already have ln on both sides, so cross that out. And now I'm just going to cross multiply and solve for x. You square root both sides, and you get plus and minus here. So x equals plus or minus 6 over 2, which equals plus or minus 3. And if you want it to on this one, it's real easy. Let's plug it in and check it out. So if you plug in your answers, you're going to get ln of 4, let's try negative 3 squared minus ln of 3. So, or you could plug it into this one, would have been better. So, negative 3 squared is 9. So you get ln of 36 minus ln of 3. Condense it. So this is ln of 12, which is what we have here. So that one was easy to check. The positive would have worked as well. You could have put a positive here. Okay, next, this one's a little different again. Condense, so you get 45x. This one's a little harder actually. Equals 5. Go ahead and multiply it by 1, which is ln of e. I'm going to move the 5 here, and then cancel out my ln's. Now we have the work to do. Whoops, sorry. So we have, let me clean it up. 45x squared equals e to the 5th. So first thing I'm going to do is divide both sides. I'm solving for x. Divide both sides by 45. Then square root both sides. That means plus and minus. Now when I do this here, I'm going to rewrite this as plus and minus square root. I'm going to break up e to the 5th. It's e to the 4th times e over square root of, what is this, 9 times 5. Do you see why I did that? Because I can take this out. Square root of e to the 4th is e squared, but I'm still left with square root of e on the inside. And in the denominator, square root of 9 is 3, but I'm still left with 5 on the inside. And to rationalize the denominator, you just multiply, whoops, sorry, it's not working, square root of 5 over square root of 5. Okay, so I'm going to move this over here. You're going to get plus or minus e squared, and square root of e times the square root of 5 is just square root of 5e. And when you multiply these two, that just equals 5, so you get 15. And both the positive and the negative work because we have, this is squared. We have one more. I saved the hardest for last, for those of you all that held on and watched the whole video. X squared minus 2 over 4. I'm writing it as a single log. Multiply this by 1. Move the 5 here. Cancel the e's. Okay. Now at this point we've gone, let me rewrite it. We have x squared minus 2 over 4 equals e to the 5th. Now just looking at this, I have to know what my domain is. This part in here has to be greater than 0. So it has to be, x has to be greater than square root of 2. Do you see why? All you do is set x squared minus 2 equals 0 and solve for x. So x equals square root of 2. It has to be positive. All right? So x has to be greater than negative square root of 2. Now, or it could be plus or minus because you're squaring it out. Sorry. All right. So let's cross multiply here. We get x squared minus 2 equals 4e to the 5th. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Then square root both sides. All right. Okay, so we have to put plus or minus here. All right. As you can see, both of these will work. Except I think the negative is going to be smaller than square root of 2. So the only answer we're going to take is x equals square root of 4e to the 5th plus 2. Okay? Because this would be smaller than, if you did the minus, it would be smaller than that. And it has to be greater than plus or minus square root of 2. And that's all. Thank you and have a nice day.